Hello, everyone. Today's topic is what is it that you were born to do? Buddha's thought-provoking teaching. Of the 4.6 billion year history of the earth, we find ourselves living in the 21st century. Each of us was born in a different country, into different cultures, in different years. Why is this so? And what were we born to do? Of course, we cannot live forever, and as the many eras of history have come and gone, innumerable people have been born, lived, and died. What was the meaning of their fleeting lives, and what is the meaning of our lives, which too must end at some point? Have you ever thought about this kind of thing? Most people probably haven't given it much thought, if any. After all, what we're far more likely to focus on is matters like how we can make more money, how we can gain recognition and appreciation from others, how we can achieve all the things we wish to achieve in life. It's usually only under particular circumstances that our focus shifts from how to live to why we live, that is, when something makes us see or question the preciousness of life. It is at those times that we ask ourselves, what am I here for? What was I born to do? I have only so much time in life, so what is it that I should be using my life for? In Buddhism, it is taught that to see impermanence as it is the first step towards attaining the body-mind. What this means is that squarely facing the matter of death is the first step towards awakening an earnest desire to find the real meaning of life. So today, let us learn about the Buddhist teachings on the reason why life is so invaluable, the purpose we were born to achieve. Today, I will talk about the following 3 points. 1. Fate. 2. The Yokawa Sermon. 3. In the space between breaths is the next world. Fate, a name given to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony and a word describing one's lot in life, which may well be as dramatic as the symphony's famous 4-note motif. We might say we were fated to meet some particular person, or fated to experience some particular thing. That means that was meant to happen for us. Often this will be something that has a big impact on our lives. Fates can refer to profoundly negative happenings, like suddenly dying in an accident, suffering a life-changing injury that puts you out of work, or contracting a serious disabling illness at a young age. The word can also refer to what we think of as great strokes of luck, like winning the lottery, meeting the love of your life, or happening to come across something that would change the course of your life for the better. In this way, the word fate tends to conjure up an image of either of these two extremes. However, at its most basic, fate just means anything that ends up happening to us. If we go through our whole lives without ever contracting a serious illness, or we start a family and end up with a happy, healthy household, or we end up surrounded by people who really care about us, these things might seem mundane and not particularly noteworthy, but they too can be described as our fate. It is only when we lose these things, or are around people who end up losing them, that we realize for the first time just how precious they are. Let me tell you a story. Once there were 2 acquaintances in the same year at university who happened to meet again after a couple of decades had passed. It turned out that one of the 2 was now a cancer survivor, and that after her near-death experience, she had made a lot of lifestyle changes in hopes that the cancer wouldn't come back. She would take care never to let herself get too cold. She'd stop consuming coffee and sugar, and she lived on a diet that was mostly vegetarian. This was in complete contrast to the other person, who took little care of his health, was fond of alcohol, and got little sleep and exercise. Even in spite of all this, however, he had never even once been hospitalized for any serious illness, and so his life had been relatively ordinary thus far. Since stress could agitate things for his friend and potentially cause the cancer to come back, she made a conscious effort not to allow herself to fret too much over her situation. She even gave the cancer a cute nickname, and talked about it like it was just a friend she lived with. Tragically, however, in spite of her diligent efforts, the cancer ended up coming back and she passed away. When a photo surfaced of her in hospital shortly before her death, her friend was shocked to see that she looked as if she had aged 20 to 30 years in such a short span of time. She had been such a strong person, determined to keep up a strict, healthy lifestyle and hold her head up high as she carried on with her life as best as she could, and yet in the end, even that wasn't enough. What particularly struck her friend, though, was that he had practically been doing the opposite of everything she had done, and yet he had never once fallen seriously ill, let alone gone through something as grave as cancer. How could this be? With the loss of her life, it was made starkly clear to him that his unlikely good fortune with his health was absolutely not something he should take for granted. He thought she too must have wondered why she had to go through all this when he got to carry on with his life as normal, even though they were the same age and his lifestyle was considerably less disciplined than hers. One might chalk it up to fate, but it certainly seemed a rather unfair fate, even if it showed him he had a lot to be grateful for. Japanese swimmer and leukemia survivor Rikako reportedly said, "It's when you can no longer take for granted the things you took for granted that you realize they're important." Like all of us, she had taken her health for granted, assuming she would stay healthy and be able to keep on swimming, like always. It was only when her health failed her and stopped her in her tracks that she realized what a vital blessing good health is. The same goes for everything else in life that we take for granted, including the people who care about us. We might grow accustomed to them being here today, but who knows? They might well be gone tomorrow, and then what will we do without them? Under normal circumstances, we fail to realize the preciousness and fragility of the many, many things we habitually rely on. How many things do we have right now without which we couldn't make it through each day, though we rarely even give them a second thought? We even take our own lives for granted, assuming we will still be alive tomorrow, despite there being no guarantee of that. It is once we realize how precious our fragile lives are, as well as how irreplaceable all the things we rely on are, that we will begin to seriously consider the question, what is it that I was born to do? What is it that I live to achieve? And so Buddhism teaches us that to see impermanence as it is the first step towards attaining the body-mind. Gazing earnestly at the fleeting nature of our lives serves as the catalyst for the desire to discover the real meaning of life, to come to know what it is that we were born to do. In other words, it is when we really see how fragile and short our precious lives are that we start to question in earnest, why do I live? In the Yokawa Sermon, Master Genshin vividly conveyed just what a blessing our lives are. Master Genshin was a Japanese Buddhist monk who lived during the 10th century CE. He was one of 7 Buddhist teachers that Master Shinran, founder of Pure Land Shin Buddhism, would name as the great masters of the school 2 centuries later. As one might have gathered from this, Master Shinran had great respect for Master Genshin, saying it was thanks to him that he was able to encounter salvation by Amida Buddha. One of Master Genshin's best-known written works is his Yokawa Sermon, Yokawa being the name of a place at the base of Mount Hiei, a central location in Japanese Buddhism. In this sermon, he said, "First of all, to have escaped the 3 evil realms and to have been born human is a rare blessing. No matter how low in status we are better off than animals. No matter how poor we are in a much better situation than the hungry ghosts. Even though we suffer because we cannot get what we want, the pain is no comparison to that of hell. The 3 evil realms are 3 of the 6 realms of transmigration taught of in Buddhism. In the cycle of transmigration, we experience birth and death over and over again in these 6 realms of delusion, traveling amongst each of them from lifetime to lifetime, taught Buddha. We are not commanded to go to these realms by some god-like higher being, and they are not created by any such being either. Rather, these realms are born of our own karma or deeds, and it is in these self-made realms that we go through continuous suffering. The 3 realms in particular that Master Genshin referred to are the Hell Realm, the realm of hungry ghosts, and the realm of animals. All of the 6 realms are realms of suffering, but the suffering of these 3 evil realms is more severe than the others. And so Master Genshin said, first of all, to have escaped the 3 evil realms and to have been born human is a rare blessing. Sakyamuni Buddha taught that those who are born into those 3 realms are as numerous as grains of soil on the ground, whereas those who are born into the human realm are akin to specks of soil on a fingernail, extremely few indeed. Therefore, to get away from the suffering of the 3 realms and attain birth into the comparatively less harsh human realm is an unlikely blessing, truly something to be grateful for. So what exactly are these 3 realms of suffering like? First of all, the Hell realm is the one characterized by the most severe suffering of them all. Its Sanskrit name is Naraka, and beings in this realm must suffer for countless kalpas. There are 8 hot hells in Naraka, and different sins will land you in different hells for a different length of time. The sin of killing, for instance, will land you in the hell of revival, while the sin of stealing will land you in the hell of the black cable. The worst sins, which are the 5 grave evils and slandering Buddhism, will land you in Avicii hell, also known as the realm of ceaseless suffering. As its second name suggests, the suffering of this hell is the harshest of them all. The realm of the hungry ghosts is characterized by the agony of starvation. When beings in this realm attempt to eat, the food they have found goes up in white-hot flames, obliterating it. These beings are therefore thin enough for their rib cages to jut out and their bellies to be swollen. It is said that those who were stingy, uncharitable, and self-serving as humans end up suffering here as retribution. The realm of animals is characterized by the law of the jungle. In this realm, the strong prey on the weak, so beings live in constant fear. Beings are born as different kinds of animals, and so into different circumstances of suffering based on the corresponding evil deeds they have done in the past. So as we see, it is taught that it is the seeds we ourselves sow that produce the fruits we reap in the cycle of transmigration. Our own deeds are what cause us to fall into hell, the realm of hungry ghosts, or the realm of animals. And yet, extraordinarily, in this life we have somehow avoided being born into the 3 evil realms, and have instead been born human. As Master Genshin said, that is something we must rejoice over. We see all the more how unlikely it is for us to have been born human when we compare our human realm with the realm of animals. When we look at the global population of humans versus animals, animals far outnumber humans, with the number of known species coming to about 1.5 million. Of these, if we take only rodents, for example, those alone consist of about 2,000 different species. Of these, the house mouse can give birth to a litter of 8 every 20 days. Unsurprisingly then, the number of rodents in the world is increasing at an overwhelming pace. But rodents, of course, make up just one of the many classifications of animals. There is also a vast array of marine life in the world, as well as insects, birds, reptiles, and many others. One species of fish, the sunfish, lays 300 million eggs at a time. As for insects, these actually make up the majority of known species on the planet, with ants alone comprising 9,600 different species and outnumbering humans 1,000,000 to 1. Clearly, it is far more likely for a being to be born as one of the many animal species of this world than it is for them to be born human. The probability of being born human is even lower than winning the lottery hundreds of times in a row. This is why it is taught that escaping birth in the realms of hell, hungry ghosts, and animals, and instead being born human, is truly something to be grateful for. Sakyamuni Buddha illustrated this with his parable of the blind turtle and the log. One day, Sakyamuni Buddha asked his disciple, Ananda, "What do you think of your having been born human?" Ananda replied, "I am very happy about it." "How happy are you about it?" Buddha asked. To this, Ananda had trouble responding, finding himself at a loss for words. Then Sakyamuni said, "Let me tell you an allegory that expresses just what a blessing it is to have been born human. At the bottom of a boundlessly vast sea lives a blind turtle. Floating on the surface of that sea is a single log, which has a small hole in the middle of it. This log is swept north, south, east, and west by the wind and the waves. The blind turtle rises to the surface once every 100 years. Now, Ananda, how likely do you think it is that this turtle will put its head directly through the hole in the log when it next rises?" Ananda replied, "Well, goodness, that's practically unthinkable. It's just not something that can happen." "Are you saying it is completely impossible?" asked Buddha. "Well, perhaps if 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 years were to pass, the turtle might possibly manage to put its head right through the hole at some point," said Ananda, "but it is a highly unlikely thing indeed." Then the Buddha said, "Ananda, our having escaped the 3 evil realms and been born human is even more unlikely than the turtle putting its head right through the hole in the log. That is how much of a rare and precious blessing it is." Sakyamuni's parable makes starkly clear just how incredible it is that we actually attain birth in the human realm. It is truly something to rejoice over, something to be grateful for. So, going back to the Yokawa Sermon, Master Genshin said, "First of all, to have escaped the 3 evil realms and to have been born human is a rare blessing. No matter how low in status we are better off than animals. We might be low in status and wonder why we couldn't be born to a more prestigious family, but even the lowest ranking members of society are still more fortunate than animals. At least we do not suffer the way cows and pigs do, branded at birth with a hot iron, kept on a chain attached to their noses, held in captivity, and finally killed for their meat. No matter how poor we are in a much better situation than the hungry ghosts. We might be poor enough that we have trouble affording food, but even so, we are still more fortunate than hungry ghosts. Even though we suffer because we cannot get what we want, the pain is no comparison to that of hell. While it is true that in life we have to suffer when things don't go the way we want, or people won't listen to us, or we're forced to do things we don't want to do, the suffering we experience in this realm is nothing in comparison to the suffering of hell. So then, now that we have received the rare and precious gift of life in the human realm, what exactly should we use our limited time here for? Buddhism teaches that the purpose of our attaining human form is finding liberation from the endless cycle of existence, the wheel of delusion that we find ourselves stuck in. Teaching how we can achieve that is the very purpose of Buddhism itself. It is only in this human realm that we can find liberation from the cycle of suffering, because it is only as humans that we can listen to Buddhism. The hindrance of being in other realms, such as the realms of hell, hungry ghosts, animals, and perpetual youth and longevity, is that beings there cannot listen to Buddhism. Now that we have been born human, we finally have the chance to listen to Buddhism and escape from the cycle of suffering. We can at last obtain true happiness and go to a realm of enlightenment. That is the purpose of our having been born human. We weren't born human just to obtain money and possessions, or fame and recognition, Buddhism tells us. In fact, we will leave all such things behind at the point of death. The real purpose of our having been born human is to break free from the cycle of suffering. The way to achieve that is detailed in the Buddhist teachings. However, we need to keep in mind that our gift of life as humans is fleeting and fragile. Just like the morning dew, our existence in this realm is short-lived. The eminent Chinese Buddhist master Shan Tao said, "Impermanence approaches moment by moment. The king of death is always beside us." Master Shan Tao lived about 1300 years ago during China's Tang dynasty. He was someone that Master Shenran respected highly, for were it not for Master Shan Tao, Master Shenran said, he could never have been saved. In the quote from Hymns in Praise of Birth, Master Shan Tao taught that death is always with us, calling it a king. Why did he call death a king? That is because a king has immense power. If he is angered, he can order a person executed right then and there without even giving them a trial, and his order must be obeyed. The ordinary person, by contrast, would be told they had no right to order such a thing and would have to comply with the standard procedure of having the person go to trial. A king has such great power that he can just override that procedure and have whatever he wishes carried out right away, regardless of any protests. This fearsome power is why Master Shan Tao compared death to a king. Death does not care for our circumstances, and nor will it listen to any request to wait, no matter what may be left on the list of things we still intend to do. Before we even have a chance to say our last goodbyes, death strikes suddenly from behind and we are no more. And so we are all like ministers standing beside a powerful, tyrannical ruler whose mood may foul at any moment and who may therefore suddenly decide, in a fit of rage, that we are to die. This is what Master Shan Tao was describing in his hymn. We usually think of death as being some far-off thing and feel safe in our assumption that at the very least we've still got some decades yet before we'll die. However, like a bolt from the blue, death comes suddenly. We never know when it will happen. While we're sitting back, relaxed, thinking we still have plenty of time left, the news may suddenly reach us that someone our same age has passed away. Imagine that someone the same age as you was, say, waiting in their car at a level crossing when another driver, who had fallen unconscious at the wheel, crashed hard into their car, killing them instantly. How do you feel when you hear of news like this? The victim probably had no idea they would die that day and instead assumed they still had plenty of life left. Can you say you thought any differently today? Indeed, we never know what might happen to us or when. As another example, brain hemorrhages and strokes are responsible for a large number of deaths worldwide. These are cardiovascular conditions, meaning they stem from problems with blood vessels. Capillaries in the brain are very thin, at just 0.4 millimeters in diameter. This is about the breadth of a hair. It is when these thin capillaries get blocked that blood flow to the brain is restricted and a stroke occurs, potentially leading to the death of that person. This means that a major contributing factor to our still being alive is that our blood is currently able to get to our brains thanks to our cardiovascular system still being able to work as they should, but that could change at any time if those tiny brain capillaries happen to get blocked. Knowing this, one could even say that our continuing to be alive is nothing short of miraculous. The likelihood that we will die, of course, increases with age. A newborn baby will be far less likely to die than a 100-year-old, for instance. Only a minority of people will live past the age of 90, let alone get to 100. Most people will live until the age of 60, with about 7 in 100 people dying before then, but that number rises to about 16 in 100 people for those who will die before the age of 70, and then of course keeps rising with every decade. We might assume that we'll all get to live until our 80 or 90, particularly as that's around the average life expectancy, but there is no guarantee that we won't be one of the 7 in 100 people who die before 60, or the 16 in 100 people who die before 70. Living a long life, then, is not something we should take for granted and is instead something to be grateful for. Truly, our reality is that death is always by our side. As Sakyamuni Buddha taught, even if we manage not to die in an unexpected accident or of a serious illness and live long, life is a fleeting thing. As of 2023, it has been 12 years since the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, a disaster whose effects still resonate in Japan to this day. 12 years is a fairly long time, about long enough for a child to go through the majority of their pre-university education, in fact. But for those who remember this disaster happening, does it feel like that long ago? Many would likely say the time since then has flown by. If the past 12 years could fly by like that, the next 12 years are likely to be gone in the blink of an eye, too. In 12 years' time, it will be 2035. How old will you be then? It might sound far off now, but by then, you might be saying the years have flown by since 2023 the way they have since 2011 now. The years will continue to fly by until suddenly we will have reached our final year. This is the fleeting nature of life that Sakyamuni Buddha taught of, and so our time in the human realm is over before we know it. On this, Master Shinran taught in teaching, practice, faith, enlightenment. In the space between breaths is the next world. In other words, death comes at us in the space between a breath exhaled and a breath inhaled. Once your life as a human is over, it will not return for 10,000 eons. After this life, we will not get the chance to be born human again for an inconceivably long time, myriads upon myriads of years. If you do not find enlightenment at this moment, how can the Buddhas save you? If you do not listen to Buddhism and attain liberation while you are still alive in the human realm right now, even the Buddhas will not be able to do anything for you. Let everyone think deeply on the mutability of life and leave no vain regrets. So please, let the fleeting nature of life startle you, and hurry to achieve the purpose for which you were born human, so that you do not regret failing to do so later. That purpose is to listen to Buddhism and find everlasting liberation from suffering and delusion. You only have a limited time in which to do this, as your life may end at any time, so do not let this chance go to waste. Achieve it now. This is what Master Shinran was teaching us. So, to sum up, our lives are fleeting and fragile, and developing a keen awareness of our impermanence is the crucial first step to finding real meaning in life. Buddhism makes clear that these short lives that we are living are truly precious, because each of us was born into this difficult-to-achieve human form for a specific purpose, to find liberation from the cycle of suffering by listening to the Buddhist teachings, and to enjoy true peace and satisfaction as a result. Let us gaze steadily at impermanence and move towards the attainment of that purpose while we still have this human form. Buddhism is a profound teaching that takes time to understand. It is precisely for that reason that this channel is dedicated to explaining what exactly it is that Buddhism teaches using a variety of familiar, easy to understand topics. So, if you are interested in learning more, do feel free to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching this video.